change the order of that. So introductions, everybody I think knows everybody actually, because we have Monique with us and Wendy. And can I assume everybody's familiar with each other?
Yep.
Woohoo!
All right.
Yep.
That's great. Nice. Okay. Any public attending are Wendy and Monique. And so any public comment on the agenda? Or I'm sorry, on items not on the agenda. So essentially, Monique and Wendy, do you have any comments and or announcements?
No.
Great.
I don't.
Okay, great. Thanks. And Monique is having a dicey connection today, so she's going to use chat to communicate with us. Alrighty.
Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Let me make one announcement. I'm thinking you guys already know about it, but just in case not, the 12.8 million that's going to non-public school. Is everybody aware of that? And are you guys going to be looking at how to cap into that?
Clarify for me, is that K-12?
Oh,
Yeah. So, but it could be used for dual enrollment and other kinds of activities that could tag into the college.
Ah, okay. Just a second. I'm trying to catch up visually here.
So just a source of funding that, potentially could be used.
Yeah, and I would assume with dual enrollment and Ed Ready kind of stuff that's going to be pretty relevant.
Same.
Yep.
Alrighty. Tori, you have the agenda up. How do we see the people again?
So, yeah, I can get I can wait. Hang on just a sec.
Because this time I'm able to have the agenda in front of me. Okay. I like that. I like that because I like seeing people. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so with that, we'll follow up on that, Wendy. I'm sorry. Wendy's comment during this was the 12 million non-public funding, which is essentially a K-12 funding resource, but could have applicability, I would assume, Ed Ready wise and or dual enrollment wise. So I don't have any update for that right now. Anybody else?
Well, there are a bunch of webinars. I sat in on 10 hours.
Yikes.
But basically, you can go to the OPI site and look at it. It's not straightforward. We have a lot of people who will not probably take advantage of it in Ravalli County unless they are sort of handheld and talked to, which I've started that process, but I don't have time to do it constantly.
Okay. All right.
They're anticipating a large number not applying. So they'll have the first funding will end in June, end 1st of June, and then they'll start a second round of funding just because they don't anticipate even the numbers that they have applying.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'll go to the website after our meeting and look at it, try to get some information.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so next on our agenda, our March 21 minutes. Are there any corrections and or changes?
This is Elida. You just need to correct the organization. The letters are APIC.
Oh, APIC. Okay, APIC. And remind me what it stands for.
The Association of Professionals in Infection Control and Epidemiology.
Okay, but it's just APIC, no E?
Yeah, no E, correct.
Okay, great. I will change that. All right. Any other changes or corrections? If not, that correction is noted. Do I have a someone who would like to make a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
As corrected. Do I have a second?
1 second.
Okay, second.
Sorry, I had my microphone off.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Great. Motion carries. All right. I always feel like, hey, Linda, welcome.
Thanks.
I always feel like the order of our agenda starts off with the boring stuff, but maybe we just need to be done with it. So any public comment on the March minutes? Oh, and I made a mistake there too. You see it says January, it should say March. Good grief. We need a secretary. We need a real secretary. All right, nope, no comment, no public comment. All right. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff of our agenda. We have the directors. Oops, I have two going on. We have the director's report. And are there any comments on that? Or discussion or questions? I was excited to see that John is going to offer those classes. I think that's really an opportunity for all of us, plus for John. It'll be great. And then I'm always really excited to see anything associated with the LPN program as we build that as a resource. That is very cool. So to me, those were noteworthy. And then I had a question about Ed Nor Thoral in the Montana writer. Tori, do you know who is that?
No, I was thinking I probably should have put that in a little differently. The title of his program through Montana Humanities or Humanities Montana is Explore Montana. So he's a writer that has done kind of I don't know if you ever know the Backroad series of Montana that's on TV. Oh, yeah. My understanding is that his style is a little bit like that. He explores kind of different tidbits about Montana, and then has a talking series that he does related to his essays and books that he's written kind of about Montana. So we're just, I think, hosting just one of his lectures or presentations, but we're hoping that this can kind of kick off doing more of this kind of thing going forward. And the thought process behind it, Lee Guthrie, who's our continuing ed person or director, we just have a lot of new people in the Bitterroot, and to tap into, generally new people are here because they want to be, but they don't always know that much about Montana. And so to start bringing in series that have to do with Montana history, Montana landscape, that sort of thing. So this is kind of a first attempt at that genre.
Cool. I wonder if, the Daily Mansion in the past did their Saturday workshops with their presentations. And the realtor who I'm fading, it's Darlene's husband, Bruce Gold. He did a stunning presentation on the Salish Kootenai. And number one, what I learned was just phenomenal, but his presentation style is just really engaging.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna let Lee know, and she can make a shout out or reach out to him.
So I think that's, as you're talking about people new to the Bitterroot, that is really foundational. to
Yes.
the Bitterroot's history. So he's a stunning presenter. So
I caught that one also, and I was so impressed. I've lived here my entire life, and I learned so many new things because it was presented from the Salish point of view
Mm.
and not from the settlers' point of view.
mhm.
And it was, I mean, I was just trying to keep my jaw, my mouth closed because my jaw was hanging open.
Yeah, I agree. It's an incredible, really makes you think about where we live. And who was here first. Yeah. All right. Any other questions and or comments on the director's report and the enrollment summary?
Just really sorry to see Hannah leaving. She was awesome, but kudos to Mary for
Yes.
being recognized because
Yes.
we know she's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch that yesterday. She looked beautiful. I mean, she just was like, and then she was the only one. This was the first of the series, and she was the only one that when Bodner introduced her, her fan club was clapping in the background. It was really, really cool. Because everybody else was so quiet, because of that they're not getting together, but she's at work, and that was neat to have everybody, clapping and supporting. So, yeah. Okay, any other questions, comments about the director's report?
I had a quick question. Tori, I just wanted to ask about the projections for the fall. It's good to see the new courses or additional courses being recommended. Are those what will contribute to the growth from this semester to next semester, or is next fall, is that kind of going back to pre-COVID expectations? Is that what you?
I would say it's a little of both. I just decided we should have a benchmark. It's interesting when it's just good to have something you're shooting for. I mean, I hate to say it, who knows whether we make it or not, but I think when we have something that the advisors and our kind of as our team is looking about it, it seems that at any rate to set some benchmarks, and then yes, essentially it was it's pre-COVID plus a little bit. So we'll see, but that's kind of the theory, is that we at least need to be holding, and if we can improve a few FTE, that would be great. And the LPN and really the computer kind of those two pathways are from gear money that we got in the fall, and the gear money that was really COVID relief money was about workforce training. And so to start resituating our college offerings to have to also be aligned with workforce instead of just transfer. So years ago, our college offerings were aligned with some workforce, but then it got complicated, we lost money, and so we pulled back and we looked at our college offerings as really just AA. And now I think we have some momentum and some funding to bring back some some workforce pathways within our college offerings. So that, again, it's a response to COVID, and frankly, it's a response to the Bitterroot Valley Community College getting organized, is that there's now room to have that vision again. So kind of a little bit of a very slow realignment towards looking at the college offerings as also having a workforce pathway. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Will there be any changes in recruiting or outreach to the community?
nothing changing except that, well, last year, of course, there was COVID. So there was, we really couldn't do anything. I mean, we put signs up in the, along along Main Street. But, in the past years, we were at the farmer's market, we were at the fair. And so I see those happening again. And so I think it's going back to, practices that we had before. Our outreach to the high schools. Last year we couldn't go to the high schools and talk to anyone. I see that happening. Of course, that won't happen to the fall. But I even just see over the summer having conversations with our in-person conversations with our high school partners again. Whereas, this year everything's just been, and they really, even the Zoom partnerships with the Zoom kind of conversations with high schools, just that was harder than we, let's just say it didn't really happen. But I see that those things are going to open back up. And so we will, we'll go back to some past practices. But I also think the momentum behind the Bitterroot Valley Community College, hopefully the Bitterroot College can kind of tap into that and play with the new college and kind of show that there's some new options and there's new possibilities, and that will also drive enrollment.
Very good.
Cool. Okay, any other questions or comments about the director's report? And we all got the message that Rosie's computer died, and so she's going to try to join India.
She's here.
So,
Oh, hi, Rosie.
all right. So then moving on to, any public comment on the director's report?
Well, I would just echo what Tori said with regards to it being really challenging during COVID to get out there in the community. We have not experienced a decline in, or a significant decline anyway, in student population, but it has taken significantly more time to reach the students. And I think coming up as we go into the next year with, additionally creative means to connect with students, is going to be pretty important, because students have had now a year and a half to back out of post-secondary anything. And that's kind of the mode that they're in, whether it's workforce or going into college. So we really need to start thinking of some creative means. I've got a student I'm working with right now who is in California finishing their degree at the University of Montana and working with 3 different departments to get scholarships and outside agencies. And we've got to do more of that. And in the Bitterroot Valley, we've got students who could be returning to school to get enhancements, whether a degree or not, but that dialogue has to be opened up more.
Yeah, I really am concerned about K-12 and post-secondary re-engagement of students. I'm really concerned about some high schoolers never coming back, not finishing, because they got disengaged. And what it's going to take what it's going to take globally, really, to re-engage comfortably. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, Wendy. Any other comments before we move on? Hearing none, let's move on to council and director topics. First of all is the nomination of new council members, because India has the audacity to graduate, and Elida is moving on in her sphere of influence wonderfully. So gratefully, John Grant has stepped up to the table of facilitating this process. Elida helped identify someone that's interested from the hospital. She sent this applicant's resume, which is really, really impressive. And so Elida, we really thank you for working with this person. She looks like she'll be very, very able to meaningfully contribute. Of course, Elida, we will miss you terribly. And then John has identified another person in our community. And at this point, all I know about this person is that he is a retired airline pilot. That's all I know. So with that, what we will do as we get more applications is John and I will look at those. I would like one other person to volunteer to look at the applications as they come in. And if somebody could please email me their willingness. I don't know, Terry, if I talked to you or not about that. Terry.
Sorry, we are passing notes again. We have,
Terry,
yeah, go on.
Terry, did I talk to you about maybe looking over the applications also?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. If you're willing to do that, then there will be 3 of us that
Yep.
can be according to our bylaws. So there'll be 3 of us looking those over. Okay, thank you. All right. So with that, we would look to our, typically we do not have a May meeting because of graduation, but because graduation is early this year, I think it would be helpful if we have a May meeting. We could bring some closure to the new applicants for membership. And if anybody has a conflict with that, let me know, because we do need to officially as a council review and the recommendations from the nomination committee. So with that, if we could try to plan on something like the 3rd Wednesday in May, 10 o'clock Mountain Time, we will do that. Okay. All right. Okay, then. Next piece is the task force update, and we don't really have an update because the meeting is tomorrow. But as we all, oh, yes, Tori.
Or this afternoon. The meeting's at 1 today, right?
I am stuck on Thursday. I don't know what that's about. Yes, it is today. I have 3 Zoom meetings in a row today. It is today. So with that, the nature of the conversation, of course, will be influenced by the legislature's approval of the establishment of the BVCC. So what we will try to do then after that is, Nathan, can we assume that we'll have a conversation today and maybe another meeting before our next advisory council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think one thing that will be discussed on the task force that may be helpful for just this body to be aware of is, Tori, your sense, and Candy, the timeline. Given the legislature's positive vote, what are next steps in terms of what's the timeline of when this goes to the populace for a vote on the levy? Or I guess what's the timeline from here? That's unclear to me. What happens when? Please.
Linda, do you want to speak to that, or would you like me to?
I can speak to it, but Sue and Tori, you can jump in here anytime. So just to kind of catch you up a little bit, the Board of Trustees for BVCC met Monday and had an all-day retreat on first steps, since we have been considered now a legal district. We are now trying to put plans into place. However, the Board of Trustees has to be officially seated before we can really move forward and do any of the things that we really have planned to do. We have 30 days from the time that the letter of approval is submitted to the county. Hank, keep me straight here, Tori. Submitted to the county Once it is recorded, then the Board of Regents has 30 days to officially seat us or swear us in, if you will. So within this month or May, we will officially be seated. And once we take that office, we have a whole litany of things that we're getting ready to put in place. None of it is really hardwired yet, but we're building on that. And we'll make sure that probably by our next meeting in May, if we have one, we can do an official report out of where we're headed, who's doing what that looks like for you. And so we have some very short-term goals, which are immediate goals that have to be taken place. And then we have long-term goals, which long-term in our world today is like 3 months. And then we'll move forward from there. So until we are officially seated, kind of everything stays status quo. We are a true district, but we're just not officially seated so that we actually have authority to move forward.
The question I would have, Linda, also would be, once you are seated and official, will you be setting up a 501c3, those kinds of things for contributions? Because I'm being asked about that in the community.
Right. So that was a whole topic of our conversation under the fiscal subcommittee that we now have. And our lovely member Sue happens to be over that fiscal committee. And she worked all day, I think yesterday, because I was getting calls on the 501c3 that, yes, will be built and put into place as quickly as we can get it there. We also had an attorney, John Masser. If anybody knows John Masser out of Stevensville, I know him. But he has graciously agreed to do pro bono work for us from a legal attorney side of where we're at to help Sue start just those things. So that's into play. Nothing's hardwired yet, but yes, and that should be up, hopefully running soon.
Excellent. All right.
And related to the finances, what is the timeline for a levy vote? When would that occur?
So I think, and Tori helped me here, but I think the levy will run with the next school district election. Am I right? Which will be May, not May of this year, but May of next year.
Great, thank you.
And there's a whole litany of discussion around how the Board of Trustees are going to answer the community's questions in terms of levy. So we're really trying to make sure that all of us are on the same page, saying the same thing, and making sure that what we're saying is very factual so that the community has the answers they get. But if we really don't know, we'll have to say we don't know. But once we do know, we'll make sure that that's part of our public quorum at each one of our meetings. So we'll move forward with whatever information we get. So we have a while to kind of prep for that. What that looks like and what that means, nobody really has a clue yet. Does that help? Did that not help?
That helped, Linda. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're learning so much every day. That's how I feel. There's always something new out there that.
Mm-hmm. So my email is blowing up. And so, yes, and so is everybody else's. We're learning as we go, but we're certainly going to keep you all right there and as informed as we possibly can.
Wonderful.
And reading policies and procedures and bills as fast as we can read them and understand them.
So before we can officially be seated, we had to come up with the presiding officers, which is a president and a secretary of the Board of Trustees. And the presiding officer, or president, if you will, is me, and Don Gardner is secretary. Good or bad, that's kind of where we're at right now. So.
All right. Great.
Linda, this is Elida. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So as the Board of Trustees become seated and settled and fully functional, what will happen with the advisory council?
As far as we're concerned right now, nothing. We're hoping the advisory council keeps right on clicking side by side and works directly with us. We probably will make sure that Candy or a representative from the advisory council is at one of our meetings all the time, so that information flows seamless. So.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Good question. All right. Any other questions about the task force and more BVCC effort? Hearing none, moving on to graduation.
Candy, I might add one more thing. I'm sorry.
Yes. No.
So just so the advisory board kind of understands where we're coming from and what we need to do, you know, once we're officially seated, we're kind of, I hate to use the word stuck, but we are in a position as to where we're going to have funds, if you will, to be able to function and move forward. So there's a lot of discussion about startup funds, and we think that Dave Beatty is going to be our angel in disguise, if you will, and work toward getting those funds to us. I'm not clearly in the loop as far as that goes. Tori probably understands it better than I do. So just know that funding is the next real hot issue so that the Board of Trustees has the ability to move forward and do what we need to do until we can be financed, particularly through the levy or the budget that we got. Now, Tori did submit to the Board of Regents. Am I correct, Tori?
Yeah, we should, I would just advise Linda that you probably just leave that direction of information off right now on funding options that may or may not happen.
Okay, but nonetheless, we have no monies to start up with. We have $0. That discussion's being had because that's going to come up quickly. And we're going to have to figure out how to kind of run that gamut. So not unlike anything else, you can't do anything without money, right?
And I guess I would, in my mind, I'm framing it as the BVCC needing monies to launch the discussion in the Bitterroot to get the word out. So not in its official college capacity, but trying to work toward that. And then there will be funding once the levy is pursued and hopefully is successful. There will be because we've been asked, others have asked about how can I contribute directly. So and I apologize if I confused that issue. I just meant for the Board of Trustees to be able to have funding to be able to function in our role as we sit now without being officially funded, the college officially funded. I was only talking about the board being funded to be able to move forward. That funding will include a lot of different things, but we will have to have some startup money. This has nothing to do with funding the college or the levy or any of that. It's just the board. So I apologize if I got that all confused. Makes sense though. All right, any other questions or comments? Yes, Sue.
Thor gave us a really good suggestion for a name for a foundation. So we have a great name, but we just have to get the foundation up and going once we are authorized to do so.
And when are you going to unveil the name of the foundation?
Well, we'll run that through the attorney.
Okay.
They gave you the idea?
Thor.
Tor.
Oh,
Thor. I mean,
okay.
Thor. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, Tor.
I
Yeah.
stuck an H in there. Thor.
It happens a lot. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was like my partner Tor, that Tor.
Yeah, that's Thor. That awesome, creative young man.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I like him.
I'm going to use this moment to say how incredibly valuable student representatives are in, you know, Tor obviously with the BVCC has been very effective, and Rosie and India, your contributions are so meaningful and just invaluable. You just I hope you can recruit someone to replace India, because we really count on you for perspective. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you. That's very, very sweet. We just didn't realize we haven't been in person classes for a while, and we're like, we don't know the next generation of students, so maybe we're gonna have to figure out and just show up and focus some people and see what comes of it. But also, when would you like me to stop showing up here?
Your last meeting, I think technically would be June. Is that correct, Tori?
Sorry, we were talking amongst ourselves. So
Very
You guys are gonna have to leave.
Trusted.
You need to leave your microphone on.
I know, we need to leave our microphone on. Okay, we heard June.
Is June the last meeting for India in Alida?
Sadly, yes.
Okay, yes.
Yep.
Thank
Oh, yes. All right. Okay.
But you can attend as the public if you're interested.
Good thinking, Sue. All right. And when we're back in person, I can't wait to be back in person because it's a lot more fun. And I feel like those connections are much more rich. So looking forward to that someday.
As
All
Terry
right.
and I can attest, and Indy and Rosalie, who are all enjoying the meeting with a partner, but it is, India and Rosalie are behaving better than Terry and I.
Okay. Shall I monitor you? Should I keep a little
Yes,
thing
we're
on
gonna
the?
leave our mic on now.
Okay, all righty. Okay, so the good news and a fun get together is going to be graduation this year, which is April 30th. And it is being nicely organized by Jamie at the college, and will be socially responsible, socially distanced responsible at the Daily Mansion grounds, as we know, which wonderful place. We really need to hope and pray that the weather cooperates with us. So I've heard back from most of you that you intend to attend that. And so the next part of it is that in the past, we have routinely then had dinner together with part of the staff who can attend and the council members. And I have to say, over the years, that has really been a lot of fun. We've always invited our speaker, and pretty consistently they've been able to attend. And so the college would like to do again a socially distant, responsible get together in the gym after graduation this year. And so we will have some food and an opportunity to invite the trustees, so the trustees can meet everyone. The council members always, it's really kind of your party, the council's party for post-graduation. And then we'd like to invite a lot of the staff and faculty from the college. I think there are some part-time people that we don't see very often. We don't have that opportunity. And so it really is important, if you are able to join us after after graduation, that you do so. So an invitation has been sent to the trustees and to you as, and I already got a response from Gary Carlson. Thanks for the invite. So I sent one to the trustees and to the council members, and Tori will send that to staff and faculty. So any question about that? Hearing none, we will move on with our agenda. Again, I said before that the May meeting of the council will be probably kind of a wrap up, and thank you to everyone for navigating this tough year again with COVID and Zoom meetings, that kind of thing. But it will also be an important time for us to review the nomination of new council members and then to vote as a council. So I can't impress upon you enough that even if you can attend only for a short time that meeting, it'll be important for you to attend. So it'll be the third Wednesday in May, 10 o'clock Mountain Time. Any questions about that? All right. Hearing none, we're going to move on to Nathan and your update.
A couple of things to share with the group. One is we are working on the plans for the fall. Summer is seen as kind of a time of transition where most of the mitigations that have been in place this last year are still there, but you know, Missoula and Bitterroot are beautiful places to be in the summer. So we're hoping that we have a good summer enrollment. We're currently slightly higher than we were last year here on the Mountain campus. But last year we offered a waiver for students to help in their costs, which we're not doing this year. So we may not see quite as good of enrollment as we did last year, but still pushing for that. For the fall, we're having lively discussions about what the new normal looks like. We're trying to be largely face-to-face, but still providing some online and remote opportunities for faculty and students who want those options. A lot of discussion has been about what recommendations are for spacing of classrooms, and that's not finalized yet. I think we're trying to get back to near normal. The CDC guidelines for K through 12 are 3 feet distancing. There have not been updated guidelines for higher ed. I think right now we're suggesting that in the stadium seating where students are elbow to or shoulder to shoulder, we're probably going to recommend having every other seat filled. So we're at probably 50% capacity in those large lecture halls. But for other classrooms where you have desks or tables or chairs that you can move, we'll probably just ask people to space out as much as they can. And it's still a question of whether we'll be wearing masks or not. So we're discussing that every day, every week in our COVID meetings. Probably have more guidance from the state and just from the trends we see in society and here locally that will help us with our fall decisions. The other update is that for the online area, I've been serving as the interim director, and we've posted the position for an associate vice provost for innovation and online learning. That position closes mid-May, and we'll be looking to hopefully hire someone for that who will oversee online efforts, but also a little bit more of kind of innovative efforts for attracting new learners, lifelong learners, community members, kind of corporate connections. President Bodner is looking to grow kind of what our traditional markets of students are. So this person will be charged with helping with some of that as well. Those are the updates I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council members, any questions, comments?
Tori.
We just had a question come up about the blended. There's different ways to deliver a section. There's the in-person. There used to be in-person or online, right? And online was always considered asynchronous, and in general. But now they've opened up some new categories, and there's the in-person, the online, and the hybrid, and or high flex, and which have both the same name, and then the blended. And it's our understanding that the the online used to always have a fee associated with that. And now the blended and the hybrid will have a fee associated with those classes. Can you speak to that at all? Do you?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
great question, Tori. So in the past, pre-COVID, blended courses had a $24 fee associated with them to cover instructional design costs with Online or other technology needs. So we are introducing that basically. So blended or hybrid courses will have a $24 fee to encourage faculty to work with Online and to use the technology that enhances those type of classes. Online classes have $48 fees as they have in the past as well. So we're basically just going back to where we were. We do have the other modality of remote courses. So if faculty, for whatever reason, think that that's the best option, that does not have a fee. So if they're just Zooming, that's without a cost. And if faculty are primarily face-to-face and just have a few students who are asking to Zoom in, that should still be designated as a face-to-face class. So there's not an associated fee with that.
So we have kind of a category of class that doesn't seem to, whatever, it's a new category, I guess you could say, is that but right now we called them blended because it seemed like that was the only option. And I had earlier discussed this with the registrar, but there's too many other balls in the air. But we would like to have a category where essentially it's an in-person synchronous class, but if a student wants to choose to attend it via Zoom, either every single time or occasionally, that's available, and we'd like that put into the section notation so that students know that that's an option. So like Jennifer is running an organic chemistry lecture, and that class, she this semester was offering it both remotely, basically remotely. You could choose. You could be a student in Missoula and take Jen's organic chemistry class and never come down here. Or you could, but meanwhile, she's doing it every day in a class. And could we request that the registrar consider a notation for that, so that students know that they can attend the class remotely? They don't actually ever have to come to Bitterroot College, but it is synchronous. And then it's, basically it is just Zoom. So then there wouldn't be that fee. Is that something that you could discuss with the registrar and get implemented sooner than later? Because right now I've got a bunch of classes that we put on as blended, but they're actually not really blended. Because there's what our instructors didn't want is for students to think that they could attend a class asynchronous. They need to be there. They don't want the option where like, well, I'll just watch the video. They don't want that. You either Zoom in or you come.
Yep. I think given what you've described, Tori, I would either just designate them as face-to-face, and then in your own communications with potential students, indicate that there are remote options for that. Or if you do want them to more explicitly see that they're high flex, that they can do both, then there will be a $24 fee for those. So
why not designate a category? I mean, we will lose students because we cannot explain that to people. People just go and look at classes, they don't always ask. They don't, like, how do we let every single advisor know that these 6 classes at Bitterroot have this, you can attend remotely or not? I mean, it just seems like, why wouldn't we want to to designate that and let students know.
If it's an officially a high flex class, then the university is designated there'll be a $24 fee.
But I
So-
thought the high flex class, well, I can't remember which is which, but one of them was that the type of class meant sometimes you come and sometimes it's online. Is that the high flex? Remind me.
That's hybrid
That's hybrid.
or blended, same thing.
No,
Can I ask a question? For
Yeah.
those of us who are not in the system and use this
Right.
every day, can you define the difference between blended and hybrid and remote and high flex and all those things you're talking
here,
about?
I'll
Sure.
pull up the,
Yep.
and I'm sure Nathan can pull it
Okay,
up too.
send me whatever so I can kind of understand that part.
Hybrid and blended are used interchangeably in many ways, where you have part of the time you're face-to-face, part of the time you're remote or through online efforts. High flex is what Tori is describing, where you have, it's all simultaneous. You have some students sitting there in the classroom, others that are zooming in. And so the university has outlined that there'll be a fee for both high flex and hybrid
Okay,
to support technology and instructional design. Because there's a lot of, I think this last year we've used high flex just out of necessity to respond to COVID, but there really are a lot of instructional design strategies to make those classes more interactive and more effective. And those fees are encouraged so that faculty are connecting with Online and IT to enhance those courses. That's why the fee is there. So if there's a desire not to have that fee, again, I would either designate it as remote classes or designate it as face-to-face classes and provide other messaging, but
So I
high
guess then
flex will have a fee associated with it.
the high flex hybrid though, in the description we got from the registrars does say that it's either synchronous online, face-to-face, or asynchronous. And our instructors really did not want students to think that if they chose a hybrid or high flex course, that there was an asynchronous option. So that was really important for our, like in the description of it, that's a problem for instructors to say a student signs up and they're thinking, oh, there's this asynchronous option. There's not, like they either have to show up or not show up, online or remotely. So that would be good if that could be pulled from hybrid, high flex. I mean, it seems like if there's an asynchronous option, it should just be remote or online.
Remote is synchronous.
Right. But so how do we do it where it can either be remote or in person, but it can't be asynchronous? That was the problem with the description for the high flex hybrid, was that it said the course is remote, in person, or asynchronous. And that was confusing, and we did not want to go down that route.
I guess I'm hearing Nathan say that Zoom could be technically in person because the person is present at the same time the class is being offered.
It's true, but the student might want to select. A student might want to select one of our courses that has a Zoom option who doesn't live in the area. And they won't know to select that if it just looks like an in-person class. They think they just have to show up. And so they're like, well, that's not an option because I can't drive to Bitterroot at 10 o'clock on Thursdays. So I'm not going to select that course. Meanwhile, that course actually has a remote option. So then we put everything as I can't remember. I think we were advised to put everything as blended, but really we should have put everything as high flex hybrid, except that we didn't want students to think that things are asynchronous. And the
But I
fee
think
thing,
the high flex still incurs the fee, no?
yes, they all incur the fee. We just found out about the fee. The fee is somewhat complicated. I think the other thing, Nathan, is our instructors just spent this whole year are ones that want to do this in-person or remote option, but no asynchronous, all synchronous. They spent, without any help from the UM, literally hundreds of hours designing really quality remote courses. So the $24 just seems like, well, could you throw that back to the faculty that actually have spent their time designing those classes? It's like they're designed now, and we have selected them. We made decisions on which ones to run that way based on the instructors that put in the time to make a quality course. So I feel like that work is already done. There's I don't necessarily mind the fee, but I think the fee should go to our instructors who have spent the time, or should somehow be put back to Bitterroot College. And I thought that, like with the when you do an online class and they get the $48, that some of that did used to go back to the departments. It didn't all go to UM Online.
Correct. Yeah, a portion of it does go to the department. It's not all just to UM Online. It's a smaller portion that goes to the department.
So how about with those then high flex and the hybrid and blended, the $24? Where is it? Will the departments be able to get that? And if they get it, can they reallocate it to their instructors?
It's a good question. You do receive part of it. And I don't know the I guess procedures or policies about how it's distributed within your area. Usually just goes to the department.
Okay, well, and whatever, yeah. We haven't seen any of that.
So Tori, given what you've described, I understand what you're saying. The language and the policies are set. So I recognize the challenge you're in. I would either designate them as high flex classes and have the fee, or designate them as face-to-face, and then just through your communications with current and potential students, say these classes actually have remote synchronous options as well.
If we, no, and I get it, and that's fine. Do we have the authority to say to students, if we make a class high flex hybrid, so that they know that there's a remote option and a face-to-face option, can we let students on that first day of class say, although in the description of a high flex hybrid class, you said that it states there's an asynchronous option, can we say, but for this class, there is not?
Yeah,
can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we can discuss it here locally. I'm sorry, I know that was in the weeds for everyone else, but that was really helpful. Thank you, Nathan. And Jennifer probably has a comment, it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, I just have a quick thing. It's not just $24. I think it's $24 per credit hour.
Yeah.
So for me, that's almost $100 per student for each of my chemistry courses. Well, for the two, the other one is just 1 hour and it's not any remote. So that's the only thing I was concerned about, just because it makes education for those students a little harder, because of that extra money they have to spend when the class has already been developed.
And of course, the people that are attending it in person have to pay that fee.
Yeah. Wow. Any other, I have some questions for Nathan, but any other council member questions or comments? Hearing none, Nathan, I want you to know that we have done our part to recruit a new student for from on UM main campus. We hosted a family from Minnesota and their daughter. We had a wonderful day walking campus a couple weeks ago, and she attended the freshman orientation, and she said it really helped. It answered a lot of questions and stuff. So we're working on her.
Thank you.
It also, I wondered if the Mountain Campus has had a conversation about re-engagement. And, I just, like we said before, I have a real fear that people have found something else to do with their lives and that they're not thinking about re-entering or reconsidering, post-secondary higher ed training. So have you guys had conversations about re-engagement efforts, and are there some things that you think that would be relevant for the Bitterroot College?
Yeah, so we have a new enrollment director, Mary Creta, as well as a new marketing person, Jenny Petty. I am very impressed with both of them. Bring a lot of expertise from Alaska and Wyoming, kind of similar markets. They did great things at both of those institutions in Fairbanks and Laramie. And applications are up and housing numbers are up. Mary is working on various marketing kind of branding efforts. So I'm quite optimistic. I'm not sure if we get a bigger freshman first year class. We also have people graduating, so I don't know how overall numbers will look. But yeah, certainly I think Montana is an attractive place for other people who are trying to flee urban areas this time. So from Minnesota or the coasts or Chicago area, Minneapolis, I think we're doing more recruiting. So quite optimistic.
The legislator referenced them as COVID refugees. Because I think any of those insights that Mary and Jenny could share with the BC that they feel are relevant, I think would be really, really helpful and important. And then I have a question for you that may not be appropriately addressed to you, but maybe you could give us some people with whom to talk and or follow up with, and that's the whole legislation around guns. We're going to lose instructors if the higher ed entities don't collaborate to say, no way, Jose, it's horrid, just horrid. So is there some update on that?
Yeah, there's been tons of discussion about that here on the Mountain Campus. There's a work group that meets weekly, if not more often, just in responses and advocacy. Really, it's an issue between OCHI and the state, and I think they've been advocating as well, sharing concerns. Right now it's been voted on. So either providing more formal concerns with it, I think, is one effort that our campus is contributing to OCHI communications about. But part two is, if nothing changes, like, how do we actually respond logistically, legally, to that as we have communications or practices on campus. So yeah, there's tons of discussion and work on it. Paula Short or Sarah Swager here on campus are people you could connect with about that.
Okay, I know Paula, so maybe I'll follow up with her. Yeah, it's the concern I have is we're gonna lose stellar instructors, staff, faculty, because it establishes an untenable situation. You know what I mean? It's pretty distressing. Okay, on that really up note, any other comments or questions for Nathan at this point?
This is Elida. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So our hospital has had 4 years and it may be that we're private, that no weapons are allowed on our campus. Is that something that the university can adopt, or no, it's not? Okay.
No, this applies to the whole state. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, right, it's explicitly written into the legislation that the MUS is not exempt. I mean, I will say, for full disclosure, here in the Bitterroot campus, the tenor is that the MUS just needs to litigate in time to get a stay by June 1st, and that really this idea of even thinking about implementation is a slippery slope, and we would like to see just immediate litigation and get it held up in the courts. There may be a way to have guns in certain types of scenarios safely on campus, but not as the law is currently written. And to even see that, to have anyone even be discussing how to implement this. I mean, I understand initial discussions, but at this point to still be talking about implementation just seems unbelievable to us here, and that the suit already should have been filed, and you should be just going right to litigation to hold this up. And I do think that if the way it's looking with how the the MUS is just stalling on litigation, I know that we have employees here already looking at litigation themselves, because nobody wants to wait until the May 26th Regents meeting, which is way too late to get an injunction on this. So, you know, I mean, and I have expressed that to Brock Tessman in the 2-year leadership meetings, that Bitterroot College employees are thinking of some other routes, because they just can't imagine that implementation is being discussed now at this point, after having enough time to think about it. It just seems like it's a pretty black and white thing, and this is not compatible with education as the law is written. That being said, I have spoken with legal with the Hamilton School District, and the school district's K-12 does have some other they have some loopholes in this law, and Hamilton School District will not be allowing concealed or open carry in their buildings, and they do own the building that we're in. So our facility looks like it will be exempt. And actually, Nathan, Lucy France is on my list to call. I just had spoken with the Hamilton district lawyer earlier this week, and so I wanted to get clarification from them, and then I was going to let Lucy know about the situation here and how we would be hoping to proceed, and make sure the you know, was on board with that and understood what we thought we had. We would be within our right to actually post no weapons, no firearms on campus because of the school district ownership of the property. And I know that Gallatin College is able to do the same thing on some of their buildings because they're owned by the Bozeman School District. And this also has been brought up with Brock Tessman, just so you don't think that like, oh, I'm just coming out of left field right now. But so we are looking to, we don't want to see any slide on this. At least that's the temperament I get from staff and faculty here, and my own professional integrity is no guns on campus. And that has nothing to do with people being able to own guns. It's just maybe there's some restrictions on where you can carry guns. So at any rate, just so you know, but I was going to be contacting legal at the UM to let them know of kind of some developments here.
That's great, Tori. Thank you.
From the student perspective, we just want to say we're totally aligned with what Tori said. The whole thing's pretty disconcerting, and I don't know about you, every peer I've talked to is not in favor of guns on campus.
Yeah, man. All right, I'm writing notes. All right. Anything else for Nathan? Any other comments or anything about council member updates? Yes, Jennifer.
So the only other thing I want to mention that I know the advisory council will have to consider is, as this goes forward and as we're trying to enforce what the district office, their ruling is, or their, you know, with where we don't have any weapons on campuses, we need to consider, you know, how we're going to enforce that with respect to even metal detectors, which I know they have it at the K through 12 schools, things like this. And we should just be thinking about that kind of, you know, kind of how we're going to enforce that rule, you know. So I don't know where that comes from as far as the money for that kind of a thing, or whether we're going to have like one door open and the other's locked during the day, you know, that kind of a thing. So it's something we should probably think about.
Mm-hmm. You know, I was going to share with you, as superintendent, we dealt with these issues. We had a community safety committee that included our local police and our local fire department, and a commissioner representative and a city council representative, and then school district, K-12 school district representatives, to have essentially the safety conversation. So it might be worthwhile to bring some of those representatives together to have that kind of conversation. And particularly our school district, from a cultural perspective, decided against detectors. We didn't want that feeling. And so we tried to deal with safety in other ways. But it's a huge issue, K-12 and for post-secondary. So maybe getting some of our local folks together. I found the fire department to be extremely helpful in this conversation, along with the police. But I was just really pleasantly surprised by the fire department, because they see things through a different lens. So I'd be willing to join the conversation locally if you want to have that. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. All right. Any other comments, questions?
Andy, it's Elida.
Yes.
You know, I will double check, but I would also put forward our person in charge of emergency preparedness here at our hospital. It's Willie Torres. So he's director of EMS, as well as the hospital's emergency preparedness planning. And he's an excellent resource. I mean, before he moved to Montana, he was a captain of a fire department in New York. Certainly has seen his fair share of events, including 9/11, and is just a great resource. So
excellent.
Yeah, I would put his name out there as someone to check in with as well.
Wonderful. That is great. Thank you so much, Elida. Wow. All right. Okay. Any other comments? Obviously, we feel strongly about these issues. All right. Hearing none, I will at this point ask for public comment on any of the topics under council and director topics.
I would, on the topic of the guns, and it was just before Bitterroot College started to move into the building that they're in now, there was, and you can find it on Valley Republic, there was a student that I ended up working with in jail who did come to school in that building and wave around a gun. And there was, you know, all kinds of discussion and statistics and all kinds of things in the newspaper about that and follow-up articles. So that might just be one, you know, example. Obviously there wasn't a policy at that point other than you can't, but there was no, you know, initial enforcement. But
Wendy, how long ago was that?
that would have been in 2010 to 12 timeframe.
Okay.
It was right before the juvenile detention center closed, and he and one other student were sentenced to 20 years. So
wow,
major articles all over the place. But
Yeah.
that was kind of the culminating event. He showed up at school with the gun.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other public comment on part 6 of our agenda? All right, hearing none. Do we have any announcements and or new documents received? And announcements, remember, can include engagements, babies, parties, the fun things in life.
I found out last week I'm the recipient of the Helen J. Olson History Scholarship. So thank you all. It would not have happened without accessible school down here in the Bitterroot. I never would have pursued higher education. So thank you all for your generous support and encouragement, including you. So thank you all so much for your help.
Nice job. You're so deserving.
Fabulous.
And remember, you're going to come back and work in our museum and be a curator. Okay, any other announcements? Or yes, Sue.
Scholarships. I'm happy to announce that Seroptimus is dispersing just short of $22,000 in scholarships this year to ladies in our area.
Excellent.
So, and we're set a goal last night for 25,000 for next year. That's our goal. We had a lot of women apply for the fellowship scholarship, which is to pursue an advanced degree. Obviously, there is not a whole lot of money out there that people are aware of to go get your master's or your doctorate. And so we had a lot of very, very qualified, worthy women that we didn't have money for.
Oh, did I see a story about one of those applicants on your website, or someone in the past that got that kind of fellowship?
I'm not sure, because we do have stuff out there. I'm not sure who you'd be referring to, but Elida was a recipient of that scholarship at one time.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Great. And look at what she's going on to do. My.
I know.
All right. Oh, that's great. Okay. Any other announcements or those kinds of updates? Any other new business? Tori, I guess, can I count on you to have a chat with Tom Korst, that as we look at the whole safety protocol, that maybe we do bring together, you know, our police, our council, or a representative from us, and then, you know, the fire department, that kind of thing. I think it would be worthy, and I would volunteer to be part of the conversation.
Excellent. I've circled it. We do have a safety team here on campus. We have an emergency plan that includes all sorts of different things. And Hannah is our person, but it could certainly be revisited and updated. And with Hannah leaving and with these new laws, it would be a great time to resurrect things and talk about it and coordinate. we actually get a lot of support from the UM on safety planning. And there's excellent resources up there that we work with. And so we can rope them in as well.
Okay, that'd be great. All right. All right, thank you. And part 8 of our agenda, any other suggestions, motions? Hearing
Would you
none.
make
Oh, yes.
donations or us to bring something for the get together after the graduation?
Oh, that is such a good question. We're working on that right now, and we have a planning meeting on Monday. So after that, as we figure out what we need, I will call you personally, Sue. Okay, thank you though. All right. Any public comment on new business? Hearing none, we are on part 9 of our agenda. And do I have a move to adjourn?
Gosh, I think that's me again. That's
I
my
do.
job.
That is your job. And usually it's Terry's job to second.
Say again.
Second.
Terry seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Very good.